Hello. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I am Dr. Toni, and welcome to our first episode. Hello, everyone. Oh, we have an echo. Welcome to our first episode of Ask Away Q&A with Dr. Toni. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. So our question today is around parenting. And as you all know, with Ask Away Q&A, the purpose of this is for us to be able to have conversations around real challenges in life so that we can feel more successful and more satisfied in a meaningful way, in a legitimate way. And I want you all to have a place to go to ask these questions. This is not about external success and making yourself look good on paper, because to be quite honest, if you're here and you're attracted to my work, you already probably look really good on paper. As far as success, the kind of conventional terms of success are concerned, you've probably checked off a lot of boxes. Maybe you have your own business. Maybe you hit that salary number. Maybe you're going up the ladder here. Maybe you've had this promotion. Maybe you have the quote unquote American dream with the family and okay. Whatever you have, whatever you've achieved, I don't want you to just have it and achieve it. I want you to actually feel successful in your life and to actually experience satisfaction that is meaningful for you and for your life and for your relationships in all aspects of it, personal and professional. Okay, so that's why we're here, and you get to submit your questions completely free. This is complimentary support for each of you. If you want to dive deeper, you can always reach out. Check out boldandbalancecoaching.com, or you can email me at hello@drtonycoaches.com and let me know what you're looking for. We can discuss if we are a good fit for working together. So our question today, I'm just going to read it to you so that you can hear exactly as it's written. As a divorced mom with 2 kids, I've been in a relationship for a year now. The relationship between myself and my partner is perfect, 11 out of 10. Everything works. Blending our parenting styles, however, is more of a challenge. Any suggestions? So far, we've taken things really slowly. We've introduced the kids to one another. The kids are still young, but not insisted on or rushed their comfort level. We both want to prioritize the happiness of our kids without letting them run our lives. Help us find that balance. Now, this question is a really, really common question for those that are blending families in some way, or those that are co-parenting in some way, and you have a child or children and you're no longer with the other parent, trying to navigate the dating world, trying to navigate the parenting with the other parent, and this other person who is like not a parent but is an adult in their life. That how do we handle all of that, right? And so I'm glad that you asked this question. We could go at it in several different angles. Okay, so what I'm going to do for simplicity's sake is I'm going to approach this question from the specific angle that you identified here, which was blending parenting styles while prioritizing your kids' happiness. Okay, so you said, I want to find a balance of blending our parenting styles while prioritizing our kids' happiness. And again, when it comes to co-parenting and blending families or parenting styles, there's so many different angles and so many different questions and a lot of confusion and frustration that can come along with that. So if you're listening to this video and a question pops up for you around this topic, please submit it in the link below for the Ask Away Q&A, and we can expand in that particular angle. Okay, so firstly, I do want to point out that the intentions that you have for the relationship here, they really do matter. Because if you are not intending to have a long-term committed relationship with this person, with some kind of desire to potentially blend your families at some point in one day, then blending your parenting styles is moot. It's a moot point. It's not something that needs to happen if that is not something that you desire for the two of you to have as families more blended together at some point down the road, okay? the two of you do not need to parent the other one's children if the involvement level is such that you're not going to be in a parenting position where your families are potentially blended at one point in one another's lives. And this is important because it can be really confusing for children to have someone else try to parent them when their role, that adult's role in their life, is unclear. It's unclear, or maybe it's unstable or inconsistent in some way, like just any kind of lack of clarity there. It becomes confusing for children, and that can then create more stress for the children that are involved. Now, of course, I'm making a generalizing statement here because they're children of all different ages, right, with all different cultures and all different experiences. But generally speaking, if the child is unclear about the role this person is supposed to play in their life, and then this person tries to parent them, is going to actually create more tension, more frustration for the children, as well as potentially for the adults involved as well. Okay. I know I was a single mom with my first child, and her father and I remained friends. And so we did do some co-parenting together initially. But I was hesitant to get out in the dating scene. And then when I finally did, I asked myself these questions too, even when do I begin to introduce my daughter to this person? Do I even want to? What's the point? Blah, 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 right? And I went through all of those questions in my mind. But it sounds like for you, at this point in your relationship, there's some kind of knowing or some kind of desire that, yes, there is a potentiality for a long-term relationship. And once I hit that point, then the questions and conversation in my mind shifted as well. It's no longer about when am I going or should I introduce her? It's I am going to introduce her, and this is how I want to introduce her. And I'm going to be looking for these things and their interactions and things like that, right? So it sounds like you have experienced that part of the process for yourself, and you and this other person, it sounds like you're potentially serious. Yeah. Okay. So if that is the case, then you do want to ask this question. How do I find the balance? How do I find the balance of blending our parenting styles? Because maybe I'm noticing that our parenting styles are just different, maybe a little bit different, maybe a lot of it different, right? Gotta maybe start to notice that. I suspect that's why you asked this question, right? Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do then is, if you are noticing that maybe there are some challenges, some tensions as you're trying to blend your parenting styles, then the progression of how you want to begin this process is a bit different perhaps than what you're going to hear from someone else elsewhere. This is what I'm going to tell you. The progression of where to begin is to first start with you talking to yourself. I know that's going to sound really weird. You're already talking to yourself anyway. We all are. We all do it. It's just going to be more deliberate about it, right? So you talking to yourself around any questions or concerns or considerations maybe that are coming up for you specifically around blending your parenting style with this other person. And then the next part of that progression would be the two of you talking to one another. So you and this other person that you're in a relationship with talk to one another alone, just the two of you. And then after that, the two of you would want to be modeling what you've talked about in front of the children. So you want to be modeling that in front of you. You want to see it play out. And then you would revisit that progression again. Okay, so we've played some of this stuff out. Now I'm going to have this kind of conversation with myself. And then we're going to have this kind of conversation together. And then we're going to try to model it in front of the children. And it's going to be an ongoing process. But here are some hard truths. Oh, Dr. Toni, like that's such a simple way to put it. That's not what's going to necessarily give the balance, but it is, if you're looking for some kind of outline, that is a very simple way to consider the outline of, let me just check in with myself first, then the two of us will talk, then we'll model it in front of the children, and then we'll come back, we'll revisit, I'll talk with myself, right? And so it's a really nice way to just very simply have a progression already ironed out for you to move through as you're navigating this process. But there are some hard truths about this that are really important that I want us to talk about, okay? So you said, kind of within the context of, I want to manage balancing, blending our parenting styles while prioritizing our kids' happiness. Listen, I'm a mom as well. I have 3 children, almost 4. This next one will be here in a couple months. And do I want my children to be happy? Of course, I want my children to be happy. We all want that, right? We all want our children to be happy. However, the hard truth is that your kids won't always be happy with how you navigate this. It is unlikely that every single child involved in the situation is just going to be happy with how each of you are handling it all the time. So prioritizing their happiness is probably going to backfire, because if that's what you're focusing on is prioritizing, if you're like, the only way I can really assess if I'm balancing this properly is if they are happy, then you're not going to feel like you're doing this properly. Okay. So they're not going to all be happy all of the time. And while you might want to prioritize that, what I would challenge you to consider is not prioritizing making them happy or doing what will make them happy, but how you want to be able to describe yourself as navigating this blending of parenting styles. Now, that's going to sound really wonky to a lot of people, okay? But consider this. Since the children are not all going to be happy all the time, it's impossible. It is impossible. Okay, you can still want that, you can still desire that, but if that's what you're striving for, knowing that it's impossible, you're going to feel frustration. Like at the very least, you're going to feel frustration, right? So yes, I desire my children's happiness, but that's not going to be the pure priority focus of all of this. Because what's going to affect your children's health and happiness the most throughout all of this is how you are showing up within it. How consistently, how calmly, how compassionately you are showing up as you are figuring out the balance of blending parenting styles. And so rather than prioritize on their happiness, my challenge too would be prioritize on how you want to show up, on how you want to be able to describe yourself as showing up within the navigation of this whole process of blending the parenting styles, knowing there's going to be ups and downs, ebbs and flows. Okay. So that's one hard truth that you might need to take some time with. Might hit different things for different folks, but it is there. It is there. And it is something that we all need to consider for those of us that are doing any kind of co-parenting or potentially blended family parenting together. Okay. The next hard truth is there may indeed be some parenting style pieces, things, parts that simply do not blend, okay? And there may be other ones that do blend, but there may be ones that do not blend. And when that's the case, if you find yourself constantly arguing about it, which is just going to put a wedge between the two of you, and then is going to make it harder for you to show up the way that you want to show up as you're navigating this, right? Which then is going to affect the health, happiness of the children, right? See that connection? Okay. What we want to do is accept that there very well may be. So have a willingness to accept. You don't want to accept everything without considering it, but have a willingness to accept that there very well may be one or two, a few parenting style things that do not blend, and you'll have to decide if that's okay. You'll have to decide, is this okay? Is it okay that this does not blend and that this is just going to be different, this particular thing? Because if the constant back and forth of arguing to try to force it to blend continues, then it actually is going to backfire. It's going to be counterintuitive. It's going to create more stress, frustration, and it's going to feel out of balance. It's going to feel out of whack, which is what you don't want, because that's not what you're asking for in this question. You're asking for some more balance, some more alignment, how to navigate that, how to create that and experience that, right? Right. And then another hard truth that I want to share is blending parenting styles isn't done. You're not going to get it done. I'm not giving you the formula to just here. This is how we blend our parenting styles. Let's do this. Okay, got it. Check mark. It's done. No. Okay. That is not how it works. All right. Now, if you maybe were blending your parenting styles with one child right after their birth or something like that, and there was no other kind of children involved, that's a different situation, but that's not what you're sharing here. What you're sharing here is that both of you have parenting styles that were pre-existing for many, many years, and you're trying to bring them together to create a new way of parenting. And so it's not going to be one and done. Blending parenting styles will be a process. And it will not always seem fair to everyone involved. I know it's like a hard truth that one for me is like a big like, what? I want to be a fair parent, right? I'm not saying that you can't be a fair parent. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that blending parenting styles is a process. It's ongoing. And within that process, as the two of you as adults come to different conclusions, resolutions, it won't always seem fair to everyone involved. And there are so many different reasons for that. For example, if there are other parents involved in this situation, their influence on it may affect it differently for different children. If there are certain kids that are in one household more often than in another household, that's going to affect the dynamics there a bit differently. You want to account for these variables, right? Because these are different experiences that children are having. We need to take them into consideration. If there are certain age gaps, certain developmental gaps, there are going to be differences that as you navigate blending your parenting styles amidst each of these differences, these different situations, it's not going to seem fair to all involved. And so that comes back to that focus point, that priority of how do I want to show up? How do I want to be able to describe myself as handling this process as I'm navigating blending our parenting styles together? Okay, because it's when there's so many different variables, each of these different situations, they do need to be looked at individually. Not all of the time, but it's going to happen where different situations will need to be looked at individually and addressed individually. And they're not all going to be resolved in the exact same way, which means someone is potentially not going to feel like it is fair for all, or is making everyone happy, right? Back to that. We can't really ensure their happiness all of the time, right? So ultimately, what the two of you want to focus on is not specifically how to blend your parenting styles and be done with that, since that's an ongoing discussion. It's an ongoing process, right? It's not a quick fix formula that you can plug in and then it's done. Instead, you'll be best served, you and your children will be best served by deciding how each of you will commit to handling the ebbs and flows of this blending process. Some questions, some prompts to kind of get you started to consider is, will you commit to showing compassion when there's a disagreement around how the other one is parenting? How are you going to show up for that? What's your commitment to how you're going to strive to show up for that? Will you commit to having an open mind, an open heart when the other one brings up a parenting style challenge with you? How do you commit to showing up for that? Will you commit to giving the other one space to cool off or think or process things before being able to give you a particular answer or agreement or resolution or even conversation sometimes? Instead of you kind of pushing to have certain conversations around parenting be done or fixed or resolved or agreed upon. Will you commit to constructive rather than criticizing conversations around one another's parenting? Will you commit to, if you are feeling an offness or strongly about some kind of parenting interaction, that you are going to bring that up? Or are you going to suppress it or try to ignore it or avoid it? these are some questions that you want to ask yourself first, remember? And you can even add on additional questions here that might pop up for you if you decide to sit down and ask yourself these questions. All right. And then as you ask yourself these questions, then you might bring them to your partner. Okay. But it might even help to start with a little bit of an even broader question, which is something like, what kind of person, partner, parent do I want to show up as I navigate blending my parenting style with theirs? I'm going to repeat that. What kind of person, partner, parent do I want to show up as I navigate blending my parenting style with theirs? Because the way in which we show up is one of the top ways that we influence the relationship with those that we have in our lives, be it a partner or children or otherwise. So it's a really important question. Ask this of yourself. Share this video with your partner, okay? And they can ask these questions of themselves, and then ask and answer these kinds of questions together, come together to ask and answer these questions, right? And then do your best to show up in that way towards one another and in front of your children. That is how you will find the balance. If this was helpful, go ahead, leave a comment below or give us a like, hit subscribe, let us know that you are here, that you are interacting. And if there's any other way that we can support you, that is why we are here. We're going to continue to have these conversations. Go ahead and submit any questions that you have, whether it's around relationships like parenting or partnering or dating or anything like that, or whether it's around business, professional work, and being able to find a balance that is meaningful, that feels successful and satisfying for you sustainably.